To invite me to speak right here. I mean, well, Workers' World International Action Center has been a long time ally, the most trusted ally for Noduto and in Korean issues. I just want to remember, like, when our dearest comrade Yumi was around, she was always part of this, and you all supported her and came out to the actions. And so I spoke to the Nodutor folks about I'm going to speak, and she said they all said, "Oh, you will be in our good ally, so don't worry, you will do fine." So they didn't come at all. Actually, I'm so sad. The situation is really, really urgent. We call. We are really worried that this time a war may happen. We are actually, Nodutor is actually preparing for 13 people trip in August. It's our annual trip, and this time we are really worried that it may be cancelled due to the increased military tension. The military tension is due to a lot of media is portraying as if the North Korea is responding with an unprovoked statement. They call it as a bellicose or belligerent action and smart statements. But as you all know already, that they are responding to the threat that they are receiving, actually. So as of this moment, the key resolve is happening. Actually, key resolve just ended, and Foul Eagle is like for 2 months joint field training that involves 25,000 U.S. soldiers plus 53,000 Korean soldiers right around the DMZ. So then the entire country goes in an alert for 2 months. So you have to really, I guess, know where you can go to the, in an escape route is always made sure. But people are still going on their daily route. But if you have gone to the Korean Central News Agency website, their banner used to be word for word, action for action. They would not back off from the threat that they are feeling or perceiving. Now it's like the banner is saying that we are ready for a great war of national unification. Yes, there has been those kind of statements made before too. In every time that they did a satellite launch, every time they did a nuclear test. However, this time we think that the situation has changed a lot, and then the military tension is higher than in the past. So I'm going to just a little bit talk about it. Yesterday, New York Times reported that nuclear B-2 stealth bombers went on to the South Korea and did a simulated bombing exercises. This is for the first time. They never did in South Korea before. They also said the B-52 nuclear bombers did a simulated exercises in March 18th, and in response to their satellite launch in December, UN sanction has been issued. It's called the toughest sanction ever. So that sanction particularly includes the financial freeze. Just like 2006, when because of the Macau bank crisis, they said they have found a fraudulent money currency that circulated by the North Korea, and then they froze all the assets. So no financial activities in the world was happening in 2006. The similar thing, not only the North Korea as a state, but also some entities that they named as a pro-North people, they named the three business people, and then they froze their assets too. So then there is no more bank actions, which means they cannot receive any money from the abroad to the North Korea, but also they cannot send any money no monies for the diplomats or students. Everyone's like in a frozen asset state at this point. And that constitutes a serious health crisis because they cannot receive any medications or anything is not going in. But they only talk about the sanctions are for the luxury goods. And I found that it's really interesting what kind of luxury goods that they are talking about is they list like yachts. Yeah, there is I'm sure there is a yacht, but why would they do it in everyday like normal trades? So I just want to talk a little bit about the media portrait of North Korea too, which you will see it as we see it all the time, and I'm sure people in the workers' world always has been very aware and critical about those, but what worries us the most is that leadership is always the menace, the evil. And then the people are always portrayed as very helpless, as if they have no will, as if they are suffering, as if they are starving, as if they are just lying. You see the images of this goose-stepping, soldiers only, not as people who are determined as workers, as mothers, as soldiers who have been building this strong nation, which I'm sure Deirdre will talk about it later. So then there is this huge gap between the strong menace, evil leadership, and then there is this very helpless, no self-willed people. Invites what? And third parties intervention. So then the state, like a great U.S., I guess, the imperialist comes in as a liberator or the rescuer. So this kind of juxtaposition justifies and invites those interventions. The South Korean will come in to save these people. So we have to be really cautious about how this is really racism, no? Yes. The North Korean people have been, for the last 60 years under the sanction, they have been saving their grounds, standing firm. There is an episode when Kaesong Industrial Complex was being built in the early 90s. The South Korean workers went in, and the North Korean workers went in, and they were working together. And then South Korean people all went in with very fancy, the tractors and equipments and drills and whatever. North Korea was in a serious, fuel crisis. Everyone came with, their hands, and then the equipments that, they are just to use. And then they start to work together. And then they said, in North Koreans, one person can work for 100 people's worth. They call it 일당백. So 1 to 100. We can really, even in fight, they said one person can take care of 100. In working conditions too, they can work for 100 people's portions. So there is a very strong will in North Korean people's side, not only the leadership, not only the party, but that has been really undermined in the media. And that's what's really sad about this situation, I think. And I also want to talk a little bit about sanctions. The sanctions are human rights violation, we call it. Human rights is the one phrase that has been really focused on as if the North Korea is the one who's doing the human rights violation. But a lot of scholars, including Hazel Smith and Seo Bo-hyuk in South Korea, they mostly agree that there is 3 types of human rights. So first one is before the French Revolution, I guess, it's more on first world human rights, right to right to assembly, right to vote. These are the first type. The second type is, the right to, I guess, feel security, the right to housing, right to food. It's more a basic need. And then the third type is right to, it happened, I guess it kind of developed after, like they say, 1965. It's right to sovereignty, right to right over the people who will make not to have foreign interventions. These type of things are like, a lot of people think that is very highly related to the human rights. And in North Korea's situation, they have been living on, under 63 years of sanctions, right? U.S. sanctions started in October 1953. And it has never ended. It has been getting tougher and tougher and tougher, and then a little bit relaxed, and then tougher, tougher. This July is going to be 60th anniversary of armistice. And, in South Korea and North Korea and in the US, people have been really preparing for mobilization. We wanted to make sure that, this would be the year that we will change it to the peace treaty. North Korea has already called an international gathering in July. So Hyun Lee of the Nodutdol went to Philippines. And then she met with a lot of the people, the Bayan people there. And then they were really mobilizing for the delegations to go to North Korea in July to have an international peace conference. In South Korea, too, they are doing a people's march from Jeju Island, where the naval construction is happening, to DMZ. So that, symbolizing that, all over the peninsula wants to have the peace treaty. In the US, we are also doing this I Stand for Peace, which we did in Times Square, rallies. And in May, we are doing a End the Korean War conference in UCLA. And then July, we are thinking about doing some week-long actions in front of the White House. And all of these people's wishes are not really, I hope that it's not gonna go in vain. Because yesterday, I saw an interesting news article saying that the Pentagon announced that so far, they admitted up to now that their North Korean policy was leading South Korea's North Korean policy. And then they said, from now on, we are going to reverse that. We are going to follow South Korean, North Korea policies. You know that at this time, we have a very conservative administration. The dictator's daughter is in power. And they haven't been really in a great shape, actually, to start, even because they haven't really formed their cabinets yet. There was a lot of people's resistance coming up. And then there has been hearings, and, the defense minister who were assigned to a defense minister was actually, after the hearing, was turned out to be really a person who received a lot of bribes before, and there was a huge list of crimes that he committed. So he was kicked out of that position. So there's still a lot of empty cabinet positions, the minister positions too. So I'm not very sure why that statement was necessary. Because it's known, North Korea calls South Korea as a puppet, right? Because South Korea's policy is of everything is kind of determined by the White House and Pentagon, and that's the known fact. And now I'm not very sure why that statement was needed. Is it for the positioning themselves as, okay, now we are just going, they have a more sovereignty. If they decide to go to a war, we'll just wait and, we'll just help because we have a treaty that is a mutual defense treaty, right? Wasn't that a violation? That October 1953, instead of having a temporary ceasefire agreement, armistice, to a peace treaty that was written in the armistice clause, they signed a mutual defense treaty with South Korea. That was a violation in and of itself. I'm not sure if why I really don't understand why people don't talk about it too much. But anyway, so that's that. Oh, I don't want to go over too much. Okay, so what if a war? We had the emergency meeting. Nodutor had the emergency meeting on Tuesday, Wednesday. So we talked about what are we going to do if a war happens. It was a little bit solemn meeting because we were like, there's not much thing to do for us here. And then, we had to come up with a list of the things that we can do to prevent it as much as we can. And then if something happens, then we will decide, if we should go to Korea or we should become a human shield or we should really work on the media or we feel the urgency, but we don't think other people is feeling the urgency just because, this tension has been there for 60 years. 60 years make everyone a little bit more numb about the situation. It happens all the time. That's what newspapers are saying. North Korea has been saying this all the time. They repeatedly, stating blah, 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 blah. So, but this is an urgent, if a nuclear bomb drops near the DMZ or near, North Korea, that's gonna really affect the northeast regions. And South Korea and Japan is really working hard to become a nuclear state, right? They have capabilities, and they are really trying to get it. The Japan has now a very conservative right-wing administration in position, and the Park Chung-hee regime, the current president's father, had a nuclear ambition. And that's why he was killed, a lot of people think, by the CIA. Park Geun-hye has been sending the special delegation to the Washington in January to discuss about, because, U.S., South Korea, the nuclear treaty is up for renew in 2014. And they really want to make sure that they become like nuclear power this time. And this is a serious situation, and I hope that, so we came up, the Nodutor came up with the things that we have to do, how much we can, devote our resources into the public actions and public speaking series, and, and we will do. And as a work to the workers' world, I also, hope that as a supporter of the revolution and supporter of the people, that you will always stay with us and stand by us. Thank you.